Hi, this is Tosha D, and this is my first informative speech for CST 100, Section DO2. This is my audience. My mother used to tell me that nighttime was for sleeping. She told me that the only people that were ever awake were people up to no good or graveyard workers waiting to hear the bells ring. You see, the old myth is that there used to be a problem in the 18th century and burying people who really weren't dead. So to stop that, they would install bells in the caskets so that when the undead woke up, they could ring the bell. Graveyard workers during that time were the people who used to have to sit and wait for the bells to ring. Today, graveyard workers are people who work 11 to 7, 12 to 8, or some variation of those hours. Despite my mother's warning, I started working overnight shifts in 1997 when I was working for a Days Inn in Roanoke, Virginia. Today, for the exception for about 1 year, I've probably worked an overnight shift ever since. The Bureau of Labor Statistics states that there is about 24 million people who work a shift outside of the normal 7A to 7P. Hopefully, after I finish this class, after I finish Thomas Nelson, I won't have to work an overnight shift, but every once in a while. Today, I'm going to talk to you about working the modern day third shift. First, I will cover some of the perks or the advantages, and then next I'll cover some of the disadvantages. As a graveyard worker, there's several advantages. One being a lot of freedom. There's a lot of freedom going on. You finish your work and you have all of this free time. In fact, most of the work that I did for this week was done after all of my work was done when I was working an overnight job. Miss Tara Weeks of Forbes magazine says that another advantage is a lot fewer meetings. Now, I also work a full-time day job. There's a whole lot more meetings doing that than in my overnight shift. Now, Mr. Tom Trimble is a registered nurse. He's a supervisor at his job, and he says that another advantage is just the hours. The hours is very low key. Very rarely does anything catastrophic ever happen. Now, of course, with any job, there's bound to be some things we wish we could control or change or what have you, and working overnight is no different. In fact, the serious natures of the disadvantages seem to outweigh the good ones. Some of the things that overnight workers have to go through may seem trivial to other people. As an overnight worker, the first thing that comes to my mind is the overnight hours. Of course, having days off is a nice thing, but when you have something that you'd like to take care of, it's harder to do it if you're working overnight, because sometimes you got to figure out when you're going to sleep. Ms. Weeks is also correct when she says that working an overnight job is disruptive to the family life. Trying to keep small children quiet is very hard to do when your overnighter is working or trying to sleep. In fact, Shawnette Mills, who is also in our class, told me that when her mom was working overnight, she used to take advantage of that as a teenager. One of the most dramatic disadvantages I have found was that MSNBC did an article that said that there is more of a chance of it causing cancer. There's risk factors. Women are more prone to breast cancer, and men are more prone to prostate cancer. In conclusion, I hope that you've learned a little bit about what it takes to work an 11 to 7 shift, or like I said, some variation of the two. Today we've discussed some of the advantages and the disadvantages of working an overnight shift. Now, for the record, my mother wasn't always correct, and this was one of the cases. It's not so dreaded. In fact, sometimes it can be quite a lot of fun. thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate all your help.